Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Humanitarian Horizons, Christina DiArcangelo Unveiled. I'm very, very excited to have one of my dear friends and colleagues and board members, Daniel Bundrick, on today. I pause, guys, because I always mispronounce his name, and I got to remember Buns, so I say Bundrick. So
It's perfect. You did it perfect. Thank you.
God.
Well, I'm excited to be here today. I'm Daniel Bundrick. I've been a pharmacist, a licensed pharmacist for 39 years now. I graduated from the University of South Carolina. You may can tell from my little Southern accent. But when I first got into pharmacy school, it was amazing. It's been a great career for me. And I've evolved, over the decades. But it's funny, today we're going to be talking about CBD and hemp and things like that. So it was funny, one of the first things, I had a professor, Dr. Sadek, and one of the first days of pharmacy school, he asked us, he said, do you guys know what a xenobiotic is? And of course, we're all young, 18, 19-year-old, we don't know what anything is. So anyway, he just went on to describe it, and he says, a xenobiotic is a foreign substance you put in your body, and you're going to be dispensing those one day as pharmacists. And I've always thought about that. And he said, your body's going to try to reject it. So, all these prescriptions that we take, they do have side effects. They do a lot of great things, but you have to monitor it. So that's one great thing. I've been able to help a lot of people in my career. But I've gone, in my career, I've also realized that natural products are also a great thing that you can augment. It's kind of, we call it integrative medicine, where you use both traditional Western medicine and a lot of plant-based medicine. So
I love that you put that disclaimer out there because, since we also work in the cannabinoid space, sometimes in our space, people are all or nothing, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, to our listeners and viewers, what I mean by that is that either you stay on the traditional route and you stick with that, or you just give it all up and you stay on the natural side of things, which I consider nutraceuticals, right? I consider cannabinoid products nutraceuticals because they come from nature. Unless they are produced synthetically, then that's a pharma product, right?
Right.
Like, for example, Arena, well, it was GW Arena, now Pfizer owns them. That's a synthetic product. And some of the other products that are out there right now that have been approved by FDA are synthetic-based products. We're working in the the natural side of things, the nutraceutical side. But to go back to the original point, was that a lot of times people in our industry believe that, well, if you have cancer, you should just take RSO, Rick Simpson oil, or something like that, and forget the chemo, don't do it, this will work. But there's not been enough clinical studies to suggest that this really does work. There have been some things that have been produced or maybe studied 10, 20 patients, but it hasn't been hundreds and thousands of patients like we do on the pharma sector side. So you can't tell a patient, well, you know what, just take this and cross your fingers, because you have an ethical obligation,
True.
Right?
True. Very true. What I've done a lot of nursing home pharmacy in my career and employee-based pharmacies, but back in 2016, I was at a point in my career where I was able to own my own local independent pharmacy called Surfside Beach Pharmacy. And that's when I started selling not just prescriptions, but that's when the CBD craze really just hit nationwide. And so my customers started asking me to carry it. So I did a lot of research before I just, stocked it and that sort of thing. So what I did is I came up with an educational system. And it really worked well for me at the pharmacy because, a lot of times when you go to these smoke shops and vape shops, and you didn't really know what you're getting. So we made sure that we, knew where it was sourced from. And we gave them education because even though it is what they call a phytocannabinoid, natural from plants, it still has its side effects too. You want to educate people on that. So I think that really helped me when I first started in the community. Even the physicians were like, I don't know about it. But as time went on and they got testimonials how it was helping, they sent a lot of their customers to me as the expert. So I was able to help them. So I really changed opinions a lot where it gave validity, where a health professional, embraced it with education, so to speak.
Right. And to your point, I love that you brought up, that you were selling it at your pharmacy, right? It's really important for us to talk about that because patients should, in my opinion, not be buying their CBD at gas stations, flea markets, weird places that you would never buy medicine. I mean, okay, so gas stations buying Tylenol because you have a headache, not a big deal, right? Because it's Tylenol and everybody knows Tylenol and it's over the counter and it's been goddamn manufactured for how many years, right?
Yeah,
But
it's
CBD, you do not buy in a
no.
gas station or at a flea market. And I'm saying this because I've seen this happen and I'm like appalled. Not only are they there, but they don't have certificate of analysis present.
Right.
So Daniel, would you like to talk about what a COA is and why
Sure.
it's important?
Sure. So again, if you get legitimate products from a good establishment, a wellness store, pharmacy, they're all going to provide that for you. And even the packaging should have the QR codes where you would scan it and you could see the COA. So it's a certificate of analysis. So it shows basically everything in that product. You're making sure it's free of pesticides. CBD has to be organically grown. So it shows, if there's everything in the plant, the terpenes, the flavonoids, not just the CBD and the cannabinoids. So it shows everything that's in there. And so you know what you're getting. And it has to be compliant, of course. Right now, it has to be 0.3% of THC or less with the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill is what started all this. In 2018, the Farm Bill was approved, and you could start selling CBD and products with hemp that had some cannabis or what they call THC, but it had to be less than 0.3%. So the COAs give you comfort of knowing exactly what's in your product. You can pull it up on your phone. You know what you're getting. It's made from a legit manufacturer. It's been third-party tested. So you want to go to use that for your security and safety to know this is a legit product.
And other also, it also tells you on the certificate of analysis when the testing was performed. Yes. On that given product, right? So, and that batch, that's another important thing. Yes. Is the batch number is also like what we do in the pharma sector, which because being a pharmacist, you understand the traditional pharma side. There has to be a batch number as well. So it's important for people to understand that they should not be viewing a COA that's 4 years old.
Right.
It's not
an
good.
Inaccurate one, or sometimes they don't even have them. So going to your point, flea markets, gas stations, probably not the idea. And a lot of times I found too, like I had an example, I was at Surfside Beach near Myrtle Beach. So we had a lot of, folks in the summer would come down and for vacation. And I had one lady from Wisconsin that came in the store and she wanted to try CBD. And she said, well, I bought some in Wisconsin, but it's done me no good. And she says, I've taken it and it was $180 for a month's worth. And I'm like, wow. I said, do you have it with you so I can compare it with what I sell? So she brings it into me and it's so weak. It was like 2 milligrams per mil. I usually sold 50 milligrams per milliliter. So it was very weak and it was an isolate. I like to sell broad spectrum or full spectrum, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I was like, there's no wonder it's not working. It is so, such a weak dose and you way overpaid for it. Mm-hmm. So it came early on in the week. She used my product. By the end of the week, she said, oh my gosh, I can feel the difference already. So she could tell when you get good quality CBD, which is cannabidiol, it does make a difference in a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's really important to bring up because pricing is another issue that we're having in the space where people are overcharging. Like this is like the mecca. I think it's getting a little bit better because the industry has imploded a little bit, and it's pricing starting to come down a little bit. But we've seen, you and I have been in the space a while. We've seen the outrageous price points that people are charging, and then they make up some weird disclaimer about the product so that it's attractive to the patient. Because a lot of these patients that decide to try CBD with terps and whatever else that's included in it, they are desperate at this point, right? They don't have anything else to take. They have tried everything else. They're still taking the traditional pharma products, which I would love for you to talk about that in a second too, about how there's a drug-drug interaction potentially with taking CBD and certain drugs, medicines, I'm saying when I say drugs. But I think it's important, for people to understand that these patients are desperate. So if they're getting ripped off with, a small milligram, that's not even going to help them, number one. And then number two, the price is outrageous, $185 or whatever you said she paid. That is outrageous.
Right.
And what did she have? 30 doses in the bottle, and it didn't even work.
Yeah, it was terrible. So there's all that out there, but so let me explain CBD, and it's not just CBD. I'm a big, that's one of my favorites, of course, because it's such a safe profile, and there's again, you can't make claims with CBD because there are no studies yet. Hopefully, you and I can change that in the future, where there are studies and things that back it up. But from people using it, we know that it does help with inflammation and pain, mild anxiety. But there's other ones besides CBD. That's the one everybody knows. But the plant itself is a wonderful plant, and it's, lots of things in it that's helpful. So there's CBG, which is cannabigerol, and that is the mother of all cannabinoids. So the good thing about this one is more of what I would say for focus, and because a lot of times you hear with CBD and Delta H, they're gonna make you sleepy and drowsy, and that's why people take them sometimes. But CBG is kind of the opposite. I consider it more of like a morning time ritual. It's also been touted for its antimicrobial activity. So that's one of my favorite ones, and I like to combine a lot of cannabinoids. When you do that with the terpenes, which we'll get into that, which is kind of an aromatic part of the plant. So what happens is you get the entourage effect, and I think that's why CBD isolates don't really work. CBD isolate is just CBD, which is fine, but you have to take bigger doses of that to get the same of a full spectrum that has everything in it. So when you go back to the entourage effect, basically it's a synergistic effect. So instead of 1 + 1 = 2, 1 + 1 = 10 all of a sudden. So you're taking this CBD, a full spectrum product, and all those things are adding up and helping with the condition that you're taking it for. Mm-hmm. The entourage effect is a real thing.
When I was first diagnosed, and you know this, when I was first diagnosed with the Hashimoto in 18, I decided that, I would take the traditional pharma thyroid meds and levothyroxine. And then, because that's what, traditional pharma has, out in the market for us thyroid people that have problems. But I also, because I was already in the cannabinoid clinical space, I started taking CBG, CBN, and CBD, and then terpenes. And I was taking it orally. I think, and it helped me, with my anxiety, the hormonal issues I was having. But I also, not that I'm making a claim, this was what happened to me when I took it. It helped with weight loss. But that was coupled with changing my diet. At that point, I became a keto wacko, where, I was just doing keto. And then because I was helping myself feel better mentally, then I was more able to exercise. So I had to do all those different things. And I dropped a lot of weight, but it took a long time. It wasn't like, again, it wasn't the magic bullet, like, oh, well, I just did this and look, I lost all this weight. And because people ask me questions that, because you know my story, we've talked about, people would ask me all the time, well, how did you lose your weight? Like, what were you doing? And, I was very careful about, I would always say, these are the 3 things I did. I was under the guidance of medical care, though. I have a medical cannabis physician that I'm lucky enough, who Dr. Donner, who is a registered Pennsylvania medical cannabis physician, but also a traditional physician, ER, wound care, he's everything. That's who my physician was. So I would talk to Dr. Donner. But then it got to a point where later we found out I had the second auto in the fall, where it was like, okay, my pain's so bad, I can't even walk. It was really bad. And so then that's when I got the medical card in Pennsylvania. Luckily, we have a program here. And I started taking THC, like high levels of THC, but I had to build it up low and slow. I mean, you can't
Yes.
just put it in and be like,
And
ooh.
that's a great point. Low and slow on everything is perfect. And people don't do that. And sometimes they'll take a big dose of, say, Delta 8 or the legal Delta 9, and then all of a sudden they won't touch it again because they had a bad experience because they went all out, day
Oh,
one.
yeah. What
Very
about
important
those?
to start low.
Yeah. And what about those people that are like, oh, well, I'm going to put on a CBD. This is not a CBD chapstick, but an example, right? CBD lip balm. Then we're going to get into the bath. We're going to take a CBD bath. And then we're going to put on CBD makeup if we're a woman or whatever, whatever you're doing, you're using makeup. We're going to do that. We're going to put special lipstick on that has CBD and my lips are going to plump up. And then
Put a cream on.
then slap some cream on because it's going to help with my wrinkles. And then I'm going to tincture. I'm going to take a tincture also. And then I'm also going to vape. I'm going to vape some CBD too. I mean, what are you doing? You cannot do all those things. That is not effective.
And there's no need. So let's get into that. So the reason you're taking CBD, you want what they call feed your endocannabinoid system. It used to be what people had, like back in the day before hemp was gone, the cattle, the pigs, they actually ate hemp, and we were getting hemp in our diet actually, and we were healthier than we thought. So hemp is a great thing for feeding that endocannabinoid system. When you feed that, it gets a lot of things to homeostasis, like blood pressure, for example. So that's the important thing, is to feed it, but you don't need to feed it with 12 products. Again, save your money. One good, a tincture or a capsule, a gummy is generally enough. And for the creams and salves and ointments, those are more localized. So you can, add that. So maybe a cream and a gummy or capsule, that's all you really need. You don't need to go crazy. And let's talk about some of those drug interactions and some of those things that I would tell my customers. So when I had my pharmacy, I always asked, are you on a blood thinner? And of course, if you went to a smoke shop, you're not going to get that. So we always asked, especially the elderly, what medicines are you on? Generally, it's okay, but with blood thinners, and it's kind of bad in the fact with CBD, it's really doing a good thing, but it's helping that medicine work better, like Coumadin, warfarin. Plavix is okay actually, but they're true blood thinners. So it helps that medicine work better, so you bleed more. So I'm not saying you can't take it when you're taking a blood thinner, but that's where you want to talk to your Dr. Don or your physician, your pharmacist, and adjust your dose, because it's going to help your medicine work better. So you could bleed more. So you would want to lower your dose of your blood thinner, and then you can take in your CBD. Another great thing is even the tincture, a full spectrum bottle of tincture. I used to tell people, you've got to shake it well. If you don't, all the goodies in the bottom. So I would say, kind of like an insulin bottle, roll it in your hand, shake it really well. And that's a simple thing, but if they don't do it, then they go home, they use it for 2 weeks, they didn't shake it, it's not working well.
And they throw it away.
Yeah, and they give up.
Because it doesn't work.
I shouldn't have bought that. So those little things that you have to tell people. Also warn them of dry mouth. To me, the two biggest side effects of cannabis or CBD would be the 2 Ds: dry mouth and drowsiness. That's going to be. It can do little other things, but in general, in my practice, real world clinical pearls, that's the 2. Dry mouth for sure. So get some dry mouth lozenges, because it's going to happen. And the drowsiness, again, it depends on the person. Like I've got one customer now, and he takes CBD, and it does like Delta 8 on most people. It knocks him out.
Oh, wow.
But for me, I can take a CBD and be on a podcast and talk. Well, it doesn't faze me. But so everybody's different, because again, that endocannabinoid system, he may have a sensitive one or a healthy one, he doesn't need it. Well, that sort of thing. So hopefully, as time goes on, people can actually test their endocannabinoid system to find out, hey, do I really need CBD?
Yeah.
So people are working on things like that. That will help us a tool.
Absolutely. And how, if what's wrong, what are they deficient in with their endocannabinoid system, and how to dovetail the right product for their endocannabinoid system, because we're all different. I'm different than you are. Everybody, you're different than, we're all different. It's not like a traditional pharma product, right? The endocannabinoid system. And by the way, traditional pharma products do not help your endocannabinoid system.
That's true. That's a great point.
So I'm just saying, but I think, you very eloquently said earlier, the fact that research needs to be done. It really, really, really needs to be done. We've seen over the past 4 or 5 years that there's been more research. We luckily participated in one for the diabetic neuropathy stuff that we were working on, and that was an amazing endeavor that we got to participate in. And prior to that, working with Israel and all the other countries that we were doing cannabinoid research in. I think it's really important that those in our space get around the research aspect of it, because if they want to be successful specifically with their product, they've got to do the research behind it, because they cannot say that it works on something if they truly don't know.
Right. And I see things changing since I've been in this space. I see where, even the big cannabis companies, right now they've all got the same type thing. They've all, and they use celebrities and the Mike Tysons of the world to, push their products. So they've got that part covered. But I think what they're missing and what they want is, again, that white coat kind of, the physicians, the doctors, the health community to embrace it too, and to have safer means. Going back to vaping, let me get on that subject since you brought vaping up. Of course, I don't recommend that. I do love, CBD and natural products, nutraceuticals, but don't do it by vaping it. To me, that's just not a good thing. It can cause bubble lung. And again, people cut corners. They put things in vapes that they shouldn't. They market to children that they shouldn't. So again, vaping is just...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think you sent me an article. Didn't the UK just outlaw vaping in the country?
Yeah, they've just banned it.
And we had upsets in the United States over vaping a couple of years ago. I remember, because when that hit the fan, I was contacted by some of the vape companies because they got warning letters because of what they had done. And they're like, well, can you help us? No, I can't help you unless you move to like a different type of inhalation solution that is more traditional pharma based, which you can do if you take the time and effort. But I can't help you if you get a letter from the FDA about your vape pen, because there's nothing I can do because you caused the damage.
Right. It can cause bubble lungs. I mean, some of the batteries explode. There's a lot of issues.
How about the kids? The kids in high school that get it somehow. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know, but I know it's happening, because I got kids all around me in my neighborhood, and like I'm like the trusted, I guess I'm the cool mom or something, and because I work in cannabis.
You are.
And then, I work in cannabis, so they all want to talk, and I prefer, come talk to me about stuff, right? Let's make sure I'm helping educate you. But like the one kid was telling me that this like local smoke shop around the corner sells to underage kids vapes. And I'm like, what's the name of that store again? Because they shouldn't be doing, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is why we get in trouble in the space, in the industry.
Right.
People like us that are legit professionals, truly trying to help patients and do things that we're supposed to be doing in accordance to the law. Then you have people like that are far left, that are like, we'll sell to whoever. We don't ask for ID. The kid looks 18 because everybody's eating all this crazy food anyway. So they think the kid looks like an 18-year-old, and they sell it to them. And then they're in school with the vape pen.
Oh, yes. It's definitely a problem. And you got to think about it. It's an oil-based product. And so like you were mentioning, a lot of places now are using nanotechnology, and they're trying to get it more water-soluble, water-based. And that's going to be a lot safer. So again, it goes back to like the COAs, know what's in your product, know where it's coming from, get it from a trusted supplier.
And that's good, because we actually have to wrap up, because I'm going to get in trouble with my podcast team because I'm going over again. But no, really, if people have questions, Affinity Patient Advocacy is here. We're a free service to our patients. We've helped, I don't know how many patients with cannabinoids, recommendations, helping people get their cards, all for free. Just email us at info@affinitypatientadvocacy.org, and we can help you figure out what to do. We've got All of the people that sit on our board are all professionals, and they're all from different walks of lives. But you know that Daniel is on the board. You know that I'm the president and the CEO of the company. And so clearly, we're not going to do anything wrong, and we're not going to tell you something that we don't know for sure. So ask questions and go to reputable establishments to procure your CBD. It shouldn't feel dirty when you're buying it. We're not buying something, on the off market when you're not supposed, you know what I'm saying? Like buying it illegally out there in the street. We're not doing that. We're telling you to make sure you get it from a credible source.
Exactly. Well, thank you. And I'll be a great resource for pharmacy, and we can run interactions, make sure, and make suggestions. I love doing that to help. And I've got thousands of testimonies. The only other thing too we forgot to mention, I'm gonna mention it real quick, is your pets.
Yes.
CBD, they have actually 4 times this, what they call CB1 and CB2 receptors that humans do. So they respond to CBD. Oh my goodness, I've got so many great stories about pets. So anyway, we'll leave it at that.
Your son's dog takes it, and my dogs take CBD. Angelo Pangelo is very anxious, so he has to. But again, going back to traditional pharma, he also takes Prozac. He takes 30 milligrams of Prozac with the hemp. So that's what he takes. Now my Gucci, she doesn't need Gucci doesn't.
See, dogs are different, just like humans.
Yes, right. Just like we talked about Gucci.
Right.
She just needs the CBD treat. She doesn't need the tincture and the treat. She just needs the little treat, and she doesn't need it so much for anxiety. I give it to her for inflammation because dogs, especially since they're golden doodles, they're half retriever, half poodle, so they have that bone structure that the retrievers have. Their hips, get displaced and hurt. So that's why Gooch takes it, because I want her to stay healthy and limber. Because she broke her arm when she was a baby. She was like 5 months old, and Angelo threw her down the stairs because of his anxiety, and broke her while I was on vacation. So
one other point because it's important. With pets, they don't give them made for just pets, because some of the human formulas have grapeseed oil in it.
Yes.
So make sure, get for pets.
No THC.
We can take the pets' medicine, but they can't take ours. Let's put it that way.
And no THC. No THC. No shotgunning your dog thinking that's funny. No. Don't do that.
Exactly. Stick with CBD, cannabidiol.
That is right.
Christina, thank you.
Thank you so much for being on today with me, Daniel. This was so much fun.
I enjoyed it.
We'll have you back on as we do more and more work together, and we uncover some of the secrets behind cannabinoids and the human body.
Bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And have a great day.
Thank you. You too. And to all of our listeners and followers, thank you for tuning in and listening or viewing us. We very much appreciate you. For now, goodbye.